Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Outwit in Real Time. I'm Dr. Dennis Becker. And of course, my colleague, who you've been hearing right beside me all the time, well, she's not exactly right beside me, but you'll hear it sounds like she's right beside me, is Robin Golinski. Robin, hello.
Hi there. I'm trying out a new thing here. So you see, if you're watching us on YouTube, you'll see a timer on the screen. We'll see.
Yeah,
Just keep us on track.
keep us on track. Exactly right. Anyway, we always talk about manipulation here. You know that. You know that from the theme song that we have out there, which is so mysterious. But you know, that's our favorite topic. And what fun we have with that, don't we? Huh, not so much. But we're trying to help you with that. And that's why we're here. We're here to give you ways to protect yourself when you are being manipulated, not afterwards. When you say, oh, how did that happen? Too late. And not before. Oh, here he comes. Da, da, da. Nope. Nope. While it's happening, that's what Robin and I are giving you. We're giving you ways to protect yourself as the manipulation is occurring. That's very new. We think we're the only ones around doing it, but that's why we're here. And that's a little bit of what we're going to be doing today. So, for the last couple of years, it's the kind of thing we've been talking about. And today, something a little bit different. It's related for sure. Everything we do is related to manipulation. Sometimes we give you a very specific thing to do, to say, the way to say it, the speed, the facial expression, everything. Today, a little bit different because we want you to be thinking about something special that's related to manipulation. So, Robin, take it away. Introduce us to what our topic is today.
Yeah, okay. So this is going to be an organic discussion about the rights and responsibilities you have both as a person in a relationship and the relationship, what you can expect from another person. So I posed this to Dennis, but we did not discuss it. So we're going to discuss it out loud. So I'd love to start with, I think about it, Dennis, as though I wish I had this information when I was younger. I wish I had had it when I was coming of age, say 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, that I would have thought this through. But you can do this at any age. It's just that you learn things the hard way when you don't do it before. Think about what is your right as a human being. We could say we're not talking about right to life. We're not getting into that. I mean, yeah, you already have life. Okay, so you have a right to. We could go really, really basic. You have a right to be able to breathe air. You have a right to exist. You have a right to expect that people are not going to hit you and beat you. So those are the ones that are really obvious for most people. I wanted to talk to you more, Dennis, about what is a person's right when it comes to expectations or boundaries, if you will, in a relationship. Now, I mean any relationship. It doesn't have to be a boyfriend or a husband or a girlfriend. Any communication relationship, what are some fundamental rights? And the reason why I bring this up is understanding those is essential mindset to holding the boundary, which we talk a lot about. So it's really approaching something we already talk about from a different angle, because it's kind of like math. When they teach you math, they teach you how to solve the problem three different ways because people process information differently. And so somebody won't get it, but then the teacher shows it a different way and they go, "Oh, I totally get that now. I didn't get it before." So that was my idea, Dennis. And we like to do this live together. So
Well,
uh,
you mentioned, I'm sorry, am I interrupting you? Go ahead, finish.
no, go ahead. I
Okay,
never
you
stop
mentioned the
talking.
word
So
mindset. Now, mindset, of course, mindset is a word that's very important to us because we realize the importance, the utter importance of mindset in all communication, but particularly with manipulation, and if you're talking about the rights and what rights do you have in a relationship, those rights that you have either as the receiver or the giver of the communication, the act, this whatever it is, whether you're
Mhm.
doing it or you're getting it, those are received by or given by you because of in part what's in your mindset. Where does your mindset come from? We don't have to go into that right now, but the fact is that they don't just happen because it's the law or what country you live in or what family traditions you have. There are certain things inside of your own mindset, your own mind, that say to you, oh, this is okay to do this. It's okay to be treated like this. It's okay to do this other thing. That's where your mindset and
Yes.
what you
Let me
think
tag
about
onto that.
becomes part of the rights and responsibilities that I think you're getting at here.
Yes. And people don't know what they don't know. So,
Yeah,
in other
great.
words, yeah. So, if I've only known, for example, I'll use myself as an example. So, being raised by a manipulator, and those of you who've read the book or know me or have listened to our podcast know that I have a very manipulative mother that brought me to all of this work and all of this insight. The message was your only worth is when you are in service to me.
Mm,
So when you are doing something for me. Uh,
mm,
so that's an internalized message. So as I get older and coming of age, I don't know anything else, right? I don't know what I don't know. I
mm,
don't know that I have worth just by existing, just by being alive. I don't have to be in service to prove my worth. So, what
mm.
do you think happens to a person like that? And I know there are many people out there like that. Many, 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 many. It's a very much more common with females. But
But maybe with most of us, we think we know who we are, but the fact is we are in large part how we have been raised and how we have been culturized and socialized and so forth, and they make up our mindset. So we think we know who we are, but not always. Quick question, Robin. How old were you when you started to be treated like that? That you were only good if you were in service to her? How old were you
I was
roughly?
never not treated like that, Dennis.
Boy.
Well, here's what happens when you're a somebody who likes to do things and likes to learn things, as I was, and likes to be helpful. you it's a reward. It's actually a highly rewarding way to be, right? You're in service to others, you're helping people solve problems, you're stepping up to the plate. Somebody needs something, you're right there ready to give it to them, and you get that little dopamine response, you get that pat on the head, you get that thank you, and that defines your entire existence. But the
Mm,
slippery slope, because everything is a trade-off. Nothing is all good and nothing is all bad. So being able to flip it over. So when I say you don't know what you don't know, you could look at things and say, wow, that's a phenomenally effective person. She knows a lot. She gets a lot done. She's reliable. She's responsible. And that was exploited as a child, but I didn't feel exploited
mm,
at all. I was
mm,
proud of myself and I developed competence and confidence. However, now, right, we keep going on. Now I wake up and realize I have issues, right? What are my issues? Well, God knows I don't have a comprehensive list right now, but one of the issues may be low self-confidence or self-doubt
mhm,
or a feeling of unworthiness because I don't know what I don't know, because my worth is always wrapped up in being in service and being of value.
mhm,
So it's very hard to say, if I don't have anything I can do or give or provide, in my mind, I'm not valuable. I'm worthless.
mhm.
This
It
is a
sounds like
really
the
important
perfect.
mindset to explore, I think, Dennis, because this is easily exploited in
Oh,
women and by corporations who
it
say
sounds
they're
before.
pro women, but they underpay the women and they give them more and more
Okay,
and
before you
more.
get off on the whole,
I
whole
know, I
corporate thing, because I
know.
know you feel strongly about that. Before you get
I
off on that,
do. I do.
I'm going to go
Thank
back.
you
I want
for
to hold it
bringing
to
me.
the individual. Let's hold it to the individual for a second, because when you feel that way and you grow up that way, and that's been your experience as a child, I'm not talking necessarily about you now, but when someone grows up that way and that's what their mindset becomes, that they're only of value when they are being of service to others. Boy, what a perfect target for a manipulator. What a
Yes.
perfect target. And believe me, folks, your manipulator or manipulators in general, they spot that right away. They know when you are in that mindset. They look for triggers of it. They look for samples and examples of it, things you say, things you don't do or don't say, everything. All of these things make you a target. What Robin's describing is a mindset. And when you're in that mindset, boy, you're a real target. So, Robin, now let's get to the point. I think we get that. We know that that puts you
Right.
in that mindset.
Yeah,
Now, what
I
happens?
definitely
How do
doubled
you?
down on that.
How do
So
you? How do you? I don't want to jump ahead too far, but how do you control that, or how do you recognize that? How do you finally realize
oh,
that this is my mindset, and that therefore why I'm such a target?
some people never do. They
Uh,
go their whole lives
yeah, yeah.
with this feeling and with these, and and again, Dennis, this goes to you don't know what you don't know. If you don't know what you don't know, then what you don't know is what it could be like if you aren't in a relationship that needs you to be in constant service.
Hmm.
Once you get a taste of that, once you unplug from that, I don't know, matrix worldview, and you get a taste of what life's like outside of that, you can never go back. You can
Hmm.
never put the toothpaste back in the tube. But let me back up, because what you don't realize, just going with what I just described as a indoctrination, if you will, we're all indoctrinated as
We
children
all are.
into some sort of
Right.
mindset. It's
That's
not,
right.
it just is.
Yeah.
So, and then part of you becoming an independent adult is realizing, thinking, reflecting, changing,
Hmm.
learning from others, all of that. But I didn't realize I had a right to my own feelings.
Hmm.
I did not think I had a right to any privacy growing up. I did not have a right to, I was very outspoken as a child. I was confrontational. So I was not a doormat by any means, but I didn't think I had a right to be heard. So even though I spoke up, I was constantly ignored. So part of it's interesting. It's interesting, but then I want to back out of that. So that people understand that if you're in a relationship, children don't have a choice, but adults do. And we don't deal with children or parental relationships with our work. We deal with adults. As an adult, you have a choice. And what good is a choice if you don't know what you don't know, Dennis? This
Hmm.
is why I wanted to dig deeper into the rights and responsibilities you have as a human and that other humans have toward you. Because if you don't know what you don't know, then how do you know even to ask? How do
Okay.
you
I
don't?
think we all obviously recognize and agree with that. As you say, we don't deal with children in our work because they don't have the choice that adults have. And when you get to be an adult now, I'm not sitting an hour on that, like age 21 or whatever. When you get to the point when you realize that you have rights and responsibilities, and you realize that you perhaps have been being taken advantage of, or that whatever the activities or actions are, they don't make you happy, and you're not feeling like you're recognized and all of that. When you get to that point, what do you do? What happened with you when you got to that point? Did you feel lost? Did you feel betrayed? Did you feel empowered? What did you do when you felt that way all of a sudden? I don't
Well,
have
I
to
want
live
to
like
be
this.
very clear that when you say when you get to that point, so because it is neat and tidy, and a lot of our society and social media and everything is about the point of wrapping and zipping things up into a 10-second synopsis. There is no one point. There is a constant, infinite peeling of the onion. There's a constant epiphany realization that whoa, something that you thought was awesome and a reciprocal, respectful relationship, all of a sudden you realize is one way. It's still happening to me, Dennis. So I have, I'll just say it publicly, but there are people that are friends that I've had for quite a while that I only hear from when they need my help with something. Now, I could make myself, I could make them the bad one and I'm the good one. I'm the good one that they call and they want help with something. But no, I take personal responsibility for that dynamic. I set that up. And this is where you have the power to change things. If I'm in that dynamic and I say, what did I do to contribute to that? Well, I approached all of those relationships, and these are older relationships. These are 20-year-old relationships. I always offered services and I was always offering help because I didn't feel like just existing made me valuable enough.
Mhm.
And this is where it's really hard to get into it because you you haven't been you don't know what you don't know. You don't know how to receive. I'll use the word love, respect for no reason.
Mhm.
You don't know how to because you never have. There's always had to be a reason because you had a parent or a mother. And my mother's not, I'm not trying to make her into the villain here, but she would turn love on and off like a switch. And I asked her once if she loved me, and she said, only when you're good. Okay, so when you get that message, then you're always going to be good, which
Mhm.
is, not such a bad thing. I'd
Mhm.
rather be that than a heroin addict or in jail. So trying to be good. But then there's other people in your life who send you other messages. But if you don't have that pre-wiring to accept it and receive it, it's very hard. You're
So,
speaking English
so
to a Chinese person. They can't understand what you're talking about.
if you had, in other words, if I put it simply, you don't realize that you have the right, go back to one of our words, rights, responsibilities. You don't realize that you don't have you're not exercising your right to feel good. You're only doing it when it's being recognized by someone else. You don't have the right to do it, have it, feel it, create it on your own.
Right.
Okay, so we
So
talk about
I
rights,
want to
but
go
you
back
also
to,
you also put the word responsibility in there.
yeah,
And I'm trying to get to a point for our listeners as to when that happens. Now, you made, I thought, a very significant point when you said it never stops. Your whole life, you're that way. All right. But
you're
we're trying to
processing.
service, we are servicing people who are experiencing a manipulative relationship. They're in a manipulative relationship, and maybe they're in it because they had not a mother, but they were raised that way, and they have a mindset that makes them much more of a vulnerable target. Once they realize that, and they realize that they've had this kind of an upbringing or experience or whatever, and it's put them in this situation, in this mindset, what do they do? How do you do
Well,
that then? Or now do
I
we
don't
have
want
to
to
look
go
at
to,
every specific
I don't,
situation differently?
I don't want to go to that simplistic, what do they do right now, Dennis? I want to go back into, if you don't mind, into the process so that because it's complicated, it's complex.
Process of what?
The process of the revelations and the epiphanies
Yeah,
of realizing as a human what you have a right to
yeah.
and what you're responsible for. So,
Okay. Well, that's kind of what I'm asking. How do you, when you get to that point and you begin to realize, wait a minute, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I have the right to feel better like Robert does or like Joanne does. I have that right. I should be able to feel that way. When you get to that point, what's the process you have to undergo to create a change in your life? Maybe your
well,
mindset.
we both know it always starts with the mindset, right? So once you have the revelation and you realize, oh, I have a right to, let's say privacy. Okay. Let's say the person you're with is jealous and they're always suspicious of you and they go through your emails or they go through your phones and you just feel bad for them because you want them to feel secure in themselves. So you just say, look, I have nothing to hide. I've done this, by the way. I have nothing to hide. And for that person to feel secure, I'm just going to let them go through all my stuff because whatever it takes to have them feel secure. But do they have a right to do that? I mean, this is where it's slippery, right? That's what I'm trying to say. It's like the gray zone because now I'm complicit. And what behavior am I rewarding with them? I mean, let's go, am I helping them evolve by doing that?
Well, what you're doing, of course, as we've been saying for all these years we've been working on manipulation, what you're saying is, hey, I give you the right to be that way to me, to treat me that way. It's a different
Right.
kind of a right than being able to stand up for yourself and say, I have the right to not be treated that way. That's a
Well, let's
different
back
thing.
it up. I have the right to be with someone who trusts me
Yeah.
implicitly. Now, that's something I never thought about or knew about.
Hmm.
But now I would say that is something that I value, and I would never be with someone who didn't trust me implicitly, who didn't, and follow me on this one, give me the benefit of the doubt. Even though sometimes there's circumstances or circumstantial evidence, and it's like, whoa, but when you're in a trusting relationship and you completely trust the other person, you go, I know it looks like this, but I know this person and I trust them. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and ask them instead of going cuckoo and reacting.
Of course,
And
when you get a good manipulator, that's how you feel. I trust this person. I trust them.
well,
And they
that's a good
manipulate
point.
that.
Lord, that's why I'm saying, Dennis, it's so complicated.
Yeah, it is.
It's so complicated, but you have to think about what you do. You have the right to peace in your life, and rights and responsibilities are together. So I've touched on this in past podcasts where I've said you are responsible, 100% responsible for your own happiness. What makes you happy? No one else is responsible for that. Now, people might disagree with me and say, no, well, that's not true. The other person should make you happy, whoever you're with, your wife, your husband, whatever, should make you happy. No, you have to know yourself. What do you need to be happy? And you have that responsibility. You have a responsibility for self-care, taking care of your hygiene, your health, your internal stuff, whether it's working or it's not working. That's your responsibility.
So you're saying what comes along with the rights that you know you have, that you want to have, that you should have, that you have, and you haven't enjoyed, in order to have those rights and to recognize those, you have to recognize that there are some responsibilities that you also have to make those things happen. Correct?
Yes, and this can be
Yes.
very difficult to to for people to take responsibility
Yeah.
because I almost wonder sometimes if we're not wired to deflect, to blame. I make jokes about this all the time, as you know. I just said this to somebody the other day. Said something to me and I said, well, I don't care as long as I have somebody to blame. And it was a joke, it was tongue in cheek, but it was kind of true. We all look for something else to blame so we
Mhm.
don't look bad. It's why people set up plausible deniability. Or have you ever been running late for something important and your brain starts going through, well, I could say this, or I could say that, or maybe I'll
Mhm.
say this. And it's all about not taking personal responsibility for
Mhm.
failing to plan your time. But it's so powerful when you take 100% responsibility for your thoughts, your words, and your actions.
Mhm.
Eh,
And let me see if I can jump to this in the last few minutes that we have. Understanding and accepting what you've said. One of the things that you are doing, you in a general way, not just you, Robin, one of the
Yeah.
things that a target needs to do in taking responsibility is, this is going to sound really bad, but is listen to us. We're giving you the things that you can do once you take the responsibility to defend yourself. I don't
True.
mean that, in an
No, but Dennis,
ingratiating
I
way,
mean,
but that's why we're here. We want to give folks things that they can do once they realize they have a right to happiness, a right to privacy, whatever it is. Then you have the responsibility to get it, to do it, to cause it. That's why we're here. We want to give you some things that will give you something to do in taking your responsibility to gaining that right to privacy and secrecy or whatever it is.
You know, just to dig a little deeper on what you just said, because it's fascinating to me. Humans are fascinating to me, and studying them and talking to them. There are people who know, and I've talked to them more than I like to say how many of them are out there, who are knowingly being manipulated and they won't do anything about it because they, so this is where you get into the real mindset, right? The payoff.
Mm-hmm.
One of the benefits, and if we don't do anything in life if we aren't benefiting it from it somehow. You know, there's some payoff there. And a lot of people don't want to look at the payoff. Well, the payoff of being in a manipulative relationship is that you can always feel virtuous, innocent, and good, and you can always blame everything on the manipulator.
Mm-hmm.
They can be the villain in your life, and you can, and I see this in a lot of the forums, which I have to get out of because they reinforce each other and they stay in this victim mindset. Well, I would do this, but he'll, he did this, and oh, can you believe he did that? And and they don't take any responsibility for their compliance. You cannot be manipulated without your compliance.
And one of the most obvious things that I face in the folks that I work with who are suffering from manipulation is, why don't you do this? It's so obvious. This would help. Why don't you do that? The reason is, the explanation, they call it, the reason is that they know or they suspect and they don't want to get backlash.
Right.
They know
That's
that do it. I
that's
know what
true.
to
We talk
do.
about that a lot.
I know I'm the one who has to do it and I should do it. But if I do this, she'll do, they will, it's the
But Dennis,
backlash.
that's true. And you and I talk about that a lot, and it's true. And there is backlash, and that can, but there are other reasons people don't do anything about
Oh,
it.
sure.
It's beyond backlash,
Yeah.
in that I like being the victim.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
whole thing in our society where the
Yeah.
payoff for being a victim is just
Yeah.
so huge, so that everybody feels bad for you and you get attention,
Yeah.
you get recognition. It's a martyr syndrome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think if you really want to be, well, this is the you don't know what you don't know, or you know it and you don't want to know it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's a come to Jesus meeting with yourself in your own psyche, because nobody manipulates more than us to ourselves. Am
Yeah.
I saying that
This is
right?
why, this is in the few minutes we have here, this is one of the reasons, folks, that you've heard us say several times in the past, that when you get to the point that we now have brought you to, and Robin's been eloquent in bringing you to this point, you get to it, you know you have a right, you have responsibilities to act upon the right that you have. Why don't you do it? It could be backlash, could be, I just like it this way, whatever it is. We're giving you three things. Remember what we said, how you act upon these things? First, you have to be curious about it. Recognize it, that this isn't comfortable. How come? Why? Be curious about your own situation. Have the
And your own
courage.
thoughts.
Have the courage to investigate your own mindset.
Yes.
Why don't I react to this? Figure that out. And then the third thing is to question it. Ask questions of your manipulator. Ask questions of yourself as to, why do I put up with all of this? You'll find that you are, in large part, the reason why you're still being manipulated. Now, we don't want to take a position of blaming you. We're not blaming you, but we're urging you to think out, to investigate your own mindset and what role you actually play in not pursuing the rights and responsibilities that you have.
Here's a parting mindset. A manipulator is a gift to you,
Mm-hmm.
to teach you, if you're willing to
Mm-hmm.
do the three things Dennis said. You will learn more about yourself from being the target of manipulation, probably than any other way. And I tend to think maybe that's why they exist in the world. They're here
They
to
know.
reveal, to teach, They're grist for the mill. So let's grow from it. Let's take personal responsibility for our compliance. And let's, like Dennis said, double down and be extra curious about your own mindset.
Now, don't leave with the thought that we're suggesting that manipulators are good things, they're good people to have around. But think about it. Think about what Robin said. They could be a big help to you if you take the responsibility and move with it yourself. You have the right to do that. Okay, today we talked about rights and responsibilities,
Oh,
risks
oh,
and responsibilities. And this is just another way of thinking about manipulation, which is what we do here every time we get together. So we want you to be with us again next time. We may be a little bit more practical, a little bit more familiar than some of the things we've talked about today, but it's all part of manipulation, how it happens and how, most of all, how you can control and protect yourself from being manipulated. That's why we're here. Be with us again next time. We're here all the time. And I see, well, there it is. The little clock on the wall tells you right there on the screen, 36 seconds, 40 seconds. It's time for us to say goodbye. So thanks for being with us. We hope it was very helpful to you. I'm Dr. Dennis Becker, and the other voice that you heard with a lot of explanatory things today, that's my friend Robin Golinski. So thanks a lot for being with us.